behind Akron in the East. Did you want to make any kind of opening statement, Coach?
Well, the West is done, and we're off to the East, and I know there's a lot of predictions out there on where you can fall. I think before the Northern Illinois game, mathematically you could be 1 through 12 still, but barring any catastrophic injuries to any teams coming up in the next 5 games, our goal from here on out is trying to secure a bye and get one of those beforehand, before it's all said and done. It's very difficult to win 5 in a row going into the MAC tournament with the new format. So we're looking at these next 5 games, still 1 game at a time, but you now have MAC tournament field play with the remaining games, because there is something to play for now, and we would like to get a bye going into the MAC tournament.
Having said that, knowing that it's Akron and then Miami Saturday, those are the 2 teams. I mean, one is right ahead of you, one right behind you. Does that put an extra importance on these 2 games?
It definitely does, because like I said, the next 2 games in particular will be MAC tournament field because of the standings, with Akron having the 1 game lead and Miami 1 game behind us, as you said. So there are still a handful of different scenarios that can come into play regarding tiebreakers and head-to-head competition and 1 through 12 order, but we need to take care of business at home and play well. But like I said, we'll still be one game at a time, but there will have extra meaning when you're playing for seeding. And with the next 2 opponents, they're playing for seeding as well. I think Akron's still got a good chance at potentially a double bye, and I know they will have earned that, deservedly so, if they can win out. But ideally, Akron, Miami, and BG, we're all looking to secure that single bye going into the tournament.
As a coach, do you spend a lot of time trying to figure out those what-ifs, and if you do you spend a lot of time with the players saying, here are what-ifs, or is that counterproductive?
You know my former boss as well as anybody, so we did the what-if scenario since Christmas when we were together. So I finally sat down and did the what-if scenario in my house by myself last night as a break in between watching film. So I have multiple pieces of paper with the what-if scenarios going into place, but I'll talk to the team briefly about a couple of them, but will not try and overload them with what's going on. But we've talked about the importance of this previous 3 consecutive road game trip and what that meant. So I think they will use this and have used it as a motivator as opposed to a negative pressure. But yes, I played around with the what-if scenarios a lot yesterday.
I knew your predecessor would have done it for sure, so never had to ask him that.
I even emailed Mike last night saying, what if this scenario happens? Give me the answer. So
we haven't seen you in a couple of weeks since the Central game. Would you kind of give us an assessment of how the team's played the last 3 games?
The last 3 games have been, we've spent a lot of time on a bus with Northern Illinois, Buffalo, Western Michigan, and it's, like I said, it has been an exhausting 3-game road trip, and we just concluded 5 out of the 6 on the road. But I was really happy with the Central win at home. We had a great crowd. We really carried the momentum that the crowd brought with us onto the floor and shot the ball extremely well. We grinded out a win at Buffalo. Alexis Rogers broke her nose during that game, so did not play at all in the second half. We're still trying to figure out how our team would respond in the second half of that game, and they responded like I thought they would. And now you go to Western Michigan and you shoot 27% for the game, miss 10 uncontested breakaway layups, 17 for the game. You're just not going to win many games when you shoot that poorly, no matter who you play. And credit Western, they beat Akron on their home court. It's always been a difficult place for us to play. We had a lead with 15 seconds to go and couldn't get one stop to finish the game. We rebounded and rallied and shot the ball much better at Northern Illinois, made 10 threes. I thought Danielle Smith played like a fifth-year redshirt senior captain should play. Made a bunch of shots, carried us early in the game along with Chrissy Steffen. The two of them combined for over 28, almost half of our points, and really led the way for us. But if you had to kind of summarize, I mean, you're 3-1 in your last 4 games, and defensively we're holding our last 4 games to 54 points. Our last 3 conference losses have been by an average of 3 points only. So there's a couple what ifs, what if, could have with those 3 losses as well, when you're only losing by an average of 3 points, like I said. But I'm happy to be at home again against Akron, and now be back in the East and playing teams for the second time. Anything can happen, that's for sure, because everybody knows every play call by now and every play, and they know every counter move that a bench player makes now after watching so many game tapes. So I'm happy with where we are, but disappointed that we've had a handful of close games that we couldn't finish because the what-if scenarios would be a little bit different right now.
You mentioned Danielle. You know what you're going to get from her, but would you like to see her do more of what she did Saturday, look for her shot rather than looking to pass first?
We've talked about that. She's a kid. She's maybe one of the most unselfish kids on the team, and she does look to make that extra pass. We need her to, but by her extending her range and knocking down a couple outside shots, in particular against Northern over the weekend, it allowed for us to have one-on-one inside. So you had Jill Stein and Lex Rogers battling it inside with defenders straight behind them. So it definitely gave us an advantage inside and outside with her stepping up and hitting those shots. I think she, just like any other senior, is seeing that you only have 5 games left plus the MAC tournament and postseason play. So she's down to very few practices as well, but that's a kid that's not playing at 100% either and hasn't been at 100% all season long. So she has really gutted it out. Her practice time is limited as well. She's just got a bad back, and unfortunately that comes with age. And she's the oldest kid on the team.
While we're talking about injuries, would you kind of update us on Alexis, where she stands, and also the situation with Jazz Matthews?
Sure. Alexis Rogers, as everybody knows, she got a broken nose in the coming right out after halftime, before the first media timeout. So did not return, got stitched up, got 4 stitches during that game. Just want to thank Buffalo for having their team doctor so quickly available. They did a great job, and she came back onto the bench and sat down in my seat, and I looked at her wondering what the heck she was doing there, so because I knew I wasn't going to put her back in. Didn't have a face mask available. Got one sent to us. She's playing in that. She has been fitted for a face mask that wasn't originally made from 1978, so it'll look a little bit better, I think, the next time that we're out there. But she'll have to wear that for a few more weeks, and then we'll reevaluate whether or not she can take it off or if she feels comfortable playing with it. That's just a sensitive spot to get hit. Jasmine Matthews, her stress fracture is still there. It's healing, but I don't anticipate her returning. Simone Eli did have surgery over Christmas break or before that, and she's progressing well. Ideally, I'd like to see her available for Senior Day, but we'll see what happens depending upon how her knee progresses. And as I said, with Danielle, she's got a bad back. So if you had to summarize, got a broken nose. Jill Stein has got a broken finger. Jazz got a broken leg. And I'm one bulging disc away from a broken back. So we're limping into this East Division, but I'm really proud of how hard our kids have worked and put in the hours in the training room to stay where they are. And because I know there's a lot of teams with those type of injuries that would have packed it in a long time ago, but that's not the type of kids that we have on this team.
Just to make sure I heard you right, you don't expect Matthews to return this year?
Correct.
Okay.
I would like to, but we'll see. She's still in her walking boot.
And I'm sorry to kind of beat this up. Are you saying that you're certain she's done, or that you anticipate that the season's over? You see what I'm
I anticipate her season is over.
You see what I'm kind of.
Yes.
You're not sitting there saying she's done, but you're just looking at the facts and saying probably.
Correct.
Thank you. Will you talk a little bit about Akron? You mentioned that you've been holding teams down, and that was the one team that really. I mean, they score 68, 70, something like that?
It was 68, 63.
Okay.
We had a double-digit lead. Both teams went back and forth. It was a close game all the way to the end. We couldn't get a couple stops at the end, and they made some free throws as well to seal the victory. It's a tough place for us to play. Honestly, a couple of years ago, it made a 3 at the buzzer, or we would have lost there. Thank goodness for Lauren made a shot out of a broken defensive play by Akron. But they've got a starting unit that is second to none in this conference. They're averaging a little under 80 points. They run a lot of sets. They run a lot of transition quick hitters. They look to push the ball as much as they can. They had a great win at Miami, beating them down there, and have really feel confident. You can see them playing well. They won essentially at the buzzer against Eastern Michigan, and so they feel confident that they can win any different type of way. But this is a game that I would imagine would come down to the wire again, because both of us know each other so well.
Am I right in saying it was Luberg that had the big game?
Luberg was fantastic that game. She in that game against us, she looked like a Player of the Year candidate as well. So with that said, I was really concerned about her going into the game, as well as Taylor Rupert, their senior, who has never beaten us, and she goes scoreless. So it was a little bit of tick for tack. So, but